Welcome to the FPL USA Press Play Podcast. You have your host at FPL USA, Brian, here with a man who's been missing in action over the holidays, but we are so glad that he's back on the pod with me tonight, and that is at FPL_Blackwolf. Dano, how the bleep are you doing? Happy New Year, my friend. We're
Happy New
officially
Year.
in 2025.
I know. Happy New Year. I had a really nice break over Christmas. I just wanted to turn my brain off from FPL for a while and just focus on the holidays and the family. So that was a really nice break. But I miss pudding with you guys, so it's good to be back.
Well, especially because Wolverhampton Wolves, the pups have been going and getting points galore over the
Fuck yeah.
break. So it would have been nice to give you an extra 60 seconds in Wolves Corner every week here when you've picked up 7 points in the last 7 out of the last 9.
Yeah, 7 points from 9. We beat Leicester with a clean sheet. We beat Man United with a clean sheet, and we drew with Spurs. I mean, we should be getting those results against those teams, how bad they've been this year, but still, it's nice to get some points on the board, and we're out of the bottom 3. So I'm very happy. Until your fucking Chelsea Blues let Ipswich back in yesterday.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the Chelsea Blues have been the exact opposite in form when you look at the table over the last 3 matches. People in the FPL community were tripled up with Enzo, Jackson, Palmer, and man, has it been shite. Just terrible. And I know Bucks and I have invested a few shekels ourselves, and those shekels are long gone in the rearview mirror in 2024. So hopefully we'll recoup them in 2025, let me tell you. But we're just going to have a quick preview today to look ahead to Game Week 20. This is going to be kind of free-flowing with another deadline fast approaching, and especially since we have Dan on the pod. Let's start with you, buddy. How did your Game Week 19 go, and what have you been up to? What's the vibes around Borussia Teeth?
The vibes are pretty good. I had a very big green arrow this week. I know I'm 3rd out of the 3 of us this week in terms of points, but that's because we all did very, very well. I got 88 points.
Bam.
I'm up to 679,000 in the world, the dizzying heights. But considering I was 3.5 million just a few weeks ago, I'm pretty happy with that. I did make one big mistake, and that is I benched Raul Jimenez for... I'll be honest here. Look, I played Levi Colwill and he got 0 points against Ipswich, but I was never going to bench him. My decision was, do I bench Rico Lewis or Raul Jimenez? So the difference is only 3 points. It's no big deal. But seeing Raul on the bench with 9 points is maddening. I don't know when to play him, when not to play him. I don't know when he's going to be rested. Oh, it's so annoying. Like, they're playing Ipswich at home next week. I'm going to start him, and you just watch him be benched for Muniz. Just watch it.
I mean, the Tractor Boys have been putting on a fucking show. They've got their boots on, and they're just trampling all over teams. They've been playing pretty well, considering their relegation side at the moment. Of the 3 relegation sides, I feel like they could put in a decent shift against any team, and that's what happened versus Chelsea. So can't blame you for Cole. He's just such a boring pick. There's no upside. It's just like a straight 2 or 6 from him usually. So to get 0 points from him was terrible.
Exactly. My New Year's resolution is to have more fun with FPL and just go with my gut and don't go too much into strategy. Caldwell in my team is pissing me off. Like you said, it's 6 points, 2 points, 0 points. I'm getting him the fuck out of my team this week. I don't care.
Yeah, or just put him on the bench. I mean, you don't want to play a 4-4-2. You want to play a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, I would say most weeks, right?
Yeah. And I bought in Salah last week as well, and he finished on 2 points, but he should have got a lot more. He missed a couple of one-on-one chances. And then Eze, of course, gets that fluky goal. Well, it wasn't really a fluke. It was a ton of skill, but that was his one real shot on goal, and it went flying in the bottom corner for 10 points. So that's a little maddening too. However, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold with the 15 points. Finally coming good.
Finally, the monster mega haul.
It looked like a screamer, but it took a big deflection. But still, that monster haul has been coming for a long time. So it's nice to finally get it.
I'm right there with you. I know a lot of managers have been waiting for that big 12 to 18 pointer from Trent. So good to see it come in. And even with a single return versus Salah's triple return, he still gets max bonus in that one. So that was one of the craziest matches. I think I mean, West Ham, just a putrid team. We need to get Fella back on here for him to rant a little bit because it is not looking too bright at all in the London Stadium there.
Especially now
And
they have Bowen with a fractured foot, so he's going to be out for a while. But
yeah,
they're going to be even worse.
just an absolute bleep show over there. And they could have conceded two more as well. Like it could have been like 7 or 8-0. It was
Easy.
pretty crazy. All right, moving to my team. I had a very good week. I'm once again at the top of the totem pole between the three managers. I end on 98 points and I get a very sizable green arrow, especially at my rank tier. I was 50K going into this week and I had a 57% rank increase to 21K, 21, 22K. So
You know,
looking
being at 20K at this stage of the season is massive, man. You've got a real good chance this season, so don't fuck it up.
I know. Well, honestly, we were in the group chat last week with some of our other FPL USA buddies, and I was going through it yesterday or last week because, I'd really like a polished start to the season and was feeling like I was on the right side of a lot of 50-50 calls and that luck was falling into place. And then I had my 3 transfers netted me minus 19 points.
Ugh.
And then, I had Trenton, I had Wooden last week and Bruno, and they got me, 4 points combined, less than that, 2 points combined. So this week, though, the variance swings back my way. Cunha gets injured. He goes off at halftime, and then I start Chris Wood in my side. So he's actually comes in with 12 points, which was very big time for me. And then today, last match of the game weekends, I have Bumo, and he scores an early goal versus my double defense for both Raya and Gabrielle. But honestly, Bumo has been just like a long-term hold for me and just has never been like a top priority to move on. And now he's got Southampton next week. So I'm actually very excited to have him. I'm hoping he can put in a double-digit performance versus Southampton, be a really solid differential for me next week.
Yeah, that Saka injury a few weeks ago really screwed up a lot of people's teams, including mine, because I had Bruno Fernandez, and Bumo. I took them
Right.
out for Saka when Saka went on that run of 2 points and then got an injury, and Bumo and Bruno returned double-digit hauls like 2 weeks in a row, and Bumo continues to deliver. And I brought Bruno back in for his red card, so oh my god,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, dude, bringing the transfer in as a red card was just like I needed to rip him out of my side. I'm like, I could bench him and play Semenyo. Semenyo ended up with a 5-pointer on my bench, but like I couldn't stare at that red card anymore. So I've had Bruno in my side twice this season, and he's been ripped out within like 2 game weeks each time. So I've definitely made some mistakes, but yeah, I'm very happy at my rank here.
I think I plan on keeping him for a while. Like I know he's got Liverpool away, but he can get a random penalty and 10 points in that game. But then he's got Southampton at home, Brighton at home, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Everton, Ipswich. I might just hold him. We'll see what happens. I think he's a good person to have though, because he's that cash cow. If you need cash to put elsewhere, I've got Bruno sitting right there. I don't have my funds spread across my midfield and have to make multiple transfers because someone like me who only has one free transfer, I really need that cash cow to be able to use. So I'm okay holding him.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. I think he's just very expensive for a dysfunctional team right now, right? Like they are the diabolical devils. They are so up and down, and the performances have not been promising under Amarin thus far. So they got their work cut out for them. And hey, who knows? Maybe Wolves could even finish higher than Man U in the table. That would be pretty funny.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I just don't know if he's worth the 8.3, 8.4. But like you said before, a lot of managers also went to who's the other player that they went
Odegaard.
for? Yeah, Odegaard. He has done diddly squat and is just too deep lying playmaker role. So yeah, Bruno, we'll see. We'll see if he can put up a good performance versus Southampton. That's the one coming up here that you really need, right?
Yeah, I think so. And honestly, like I know Man United are a terrible team, but if they do anything good, he's right there every single time. His XGI
Yeah.
is so high. So even
I
against
mean the
Liverpool,
the the
I
reason I
expect a
brought him
chance.
in, yeah, the reason I brought him in for the soccer replacement, like I watched that whole match versus Bournemouth and like he had like 5 shots, was in the
Yeah,
box, like
yeah.
so heavily involved, putting in those, pretty good efforts on crosses and yeah, just did not come to fruition. All right, let's also shout out our sick buddy on the East Coast. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little under the weather as well. I think Bucks is trying to share his flu load with me. I'm starting to come down with a little bit of something. It's going around right now, but Bucks is
Blue
very
load.
happy.
It's a very interesting way of putting it.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, I'll just skip over that and shout out that Bucks had 92 points this game week, and he had a very sizable green arrow as well. So he saved his transfer, so it's always a positive. But right now, I think he's tripled up on the Chelsea attack and with his wallet and his FPL team, and that has not gone well. So Enzo 1 point, Nico Jackson 1 point, Palmer 2 points. That is a tough pill to swallow there.
Yeah, Bucks has a decision to make too because he's someone that has gone quite cheap on his bench. He's got like Enzo,
Yeah, he's
Bergvall,
rail thin.
Greaves, Lewis. So he might have some problems soon.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's also end this segment of the Game Week 19 recap and shout out President Kuti FC in our Press Play Pod Premiership League. They are the highest scoring manager at 107 points. Woo! 28 points over their safety score. They have a nice live rank of 100K, just a clean 100K. That's pretty nice right there. So well done to them. 32 points from Mo Salah. Trent with 15. Wood and Gabby Jesus up top with a dozen apiece. And I think we're going to talk about some of the forwards later as potential Cunha replacements, or if it's a Cunha hold. But Gabby Jesus is rounding into form at the right time, especially with Saka out of the Gunners' side. All right, let's transition here and just take a look ahead. I think we should just take a look at the schedule, Dan, and see what are some of the matches that we're expecting big points. On paper, when I pull up my team, I'm seeing a lot of away fixtures, not the best. I got like João Pedro versus double Arsenal defense. I got a couple weird spots on my team. So what is your optimism? Bring some positivity to game week 20 that's around the corner.
I think a lot of people are looking at their team this week and seeing a lot of difficult fixtures and panicking. But, we're all in the same boat. You never know what's going to happen. You saw Ipswich keep a clean sheet against Chelsea this week, so you just never know what's going to happen. I think the one that on paper looks like whole potential is Liverpool at home to Man United. The way Liverpool are playing, the way Man United are playing, I see Liverpool scoring a lot of goals in that game. So I think Salah captain is another obvious choice. I think if you have one of their defenders, Trent Alexander-Arnold in particular, I think he has another chance of getting a haul. And then there's people out there with a third Liverpool asset. It's kind of difficult to know which one to pick because they rotate a lot. But if you get the one that starts and plays most of the game, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to bring up something I was thinking about over the last couple of days and just the absolute scintillating form that Mo Salah is in, already at the 200-point mark at the halfway point of the season. Just absolutely torching the league. More games than any other Premier League player with a goal and an assist. Truly incredible. 9 of those types of performances now. So what I was thinking about was just like the bubble of the X community and FPL and everybody who was so fucking annoyed with Haaland perma-cap last season. And now, right now, there is no way you can go against him. I've seen people that went with Palmer this week for Ipswich. They got 4 points. You're down 28 points, total in that. Like, that's rough. So just kind of curious, is it just because people are sick of Man City and because they've won the league so many times and they've been such a well-oiled machine and people don't like Haaland versus people just like respect and like Mo Salah? Like what is it there? Because right now the perma-cap it's alive and it doesn't seem to have an end in sight.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not just the perma-cap. I saw someone say on Twitter the other day, you're basically playing with 8 players, arguably even 7, because everyone's got Mo Salah captain, everyone's got Cole Palmer, pretty much everyone's got Isak at this point, and most of us have one Arsenal defender, most likely Gabriel. So the points are really coming from your other 7, 8 players. And there's so much variance this season. I think last season, Haaland every single game week was the obvious captain choice. Now it's Salah, but Palmer is another option. Isak is another option. There are points coming from elsewhere too. And Salah's just such a nice player to watch. I love
Yeah.
captaining him. You love captaining the midfielder.
Yeah, especially because he can dribble the ball and put himself in positions to assist or score himself. Whereas right now, especially if you watch any of the Manchester City matches, it's just Haaland relies on so much service to come to him, and that has not been going well this season for them at all. Just looking stuck in the mud in the midfield, and KDB has lost 3 steps and whatever else. But anyway, it was just some kind of macro thought I was thinking about. Just
Yeah.
I feel like the narrative around perma-cap on Haaland last year was people were like pissed. People were like, this isn't, this isn't fun, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, right now or the last 12 game weeks, if you weren't captaining Mo, you're definitely getting huge red arrows. So it's that kind of season. But let's double down and talk about Liverpool a little bit more. They usually own Manchester United. This is a home match, so I expect them to get a lot of joy. What are your thoughts on the other assets? I know you and I both have Mo Salah and Trent. Who is that third player? Is it Gakpo, who has started 7 out of 8 matches and consistently putting in really good performances? It's also interesting that he's kind of on the wing right now, whereas Diaz is playing a little bit more up top and doing some of the sprinting. So just kind of curious, who else makes the tier here with Jota waiting in the wings, building his fitness up? Where does he slot back in? And is it worth the headache?
Exactly. That's the problem with this Liverpool team. I think if you had another nailed player like Salah, we would all have him. He'd be incredibly high earned, and he'd probably be on your team for the whole season. It's knowing which one to get and getting the right one at the right time. Like it could be Luis Diaz, but then we saw he went through a patch where he was benched a lot. Hakpo's been in the team quite a lot and he's delivering points after points after points, but at any point he can just be put on the bench. Even Jota, who's coming back from fitness, we've seen him, Jota the Slaughter. He's a great finisher. He's going to get points galore if he actually plays most of the game.
Yeah, of
So,
course. I mean, I had Jota on my game week
yeah.
1 team trying to cover Mo Salah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's crazy to think about, right? Like that was 19 game weeks ago, going into game week 1. Just like I don't need Mo. I'll keep Holland up top and I'll go with Jota and hopefully he'll cover the points. That
Yeah.
has not been the case.
No. But I think game week 24, I think more likely game week 25 is when Liverpool are going to have a double. So a lot of people have a decision to make. Do you go with the nailedness of someone like Virgil van Dijk as your third asset? Do you pick Arne Slot and use the assistant manager chip? Or do you go a bit more rogue and pick one of their attacking players because you know they're going to get a lot of goals, but trying to pick the right one? So I think there's a lot of strategy coming up, a lot of variance coming up. There's going to be a lot of pissed off people.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, I have triple cap, I have the ass man chip, free hit, bench boost,
Oh,
wild
shut
card
up.
2. So it's just like a weird spot
Yeah.
to be in though, trying to figure out
Yeah.
this Liverpool situation. Like I originally went for Bruno as my soccer replacement, then fucked him up into the sun. And then I went for Anthony Gordon, who has been ticking along, like not as threatening in front of goal, but Newcastle look awesome. They look like they'll score 3 goals versus anybody right now. And so that's been like a decent transfer, but I still have that open slot in my team that I could go for Diaz, but I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out. I just don't eh, because I don't also have like previous experience with the ass man chip, like I'm trying to get my
Yeah.
head wrapped around it. Like, is it worth the extra transfers to bring in Diaz and then fuck him off and then bring in slot for this double in 25? Like it's just it's a tough combination, but
Yeah. For
I got
for
to
me
give it some
it's
more thought.
yeah, for me it's very team dependent based on how many transfers you have. Because like I said earlier, I have only one free transfer. If I bring in someone like Luis Diaz for Bruno Fernandes, for example, I've spread out all of my funds across my midfield. Then if I decide I want to play the assistant manager chip and I need to spend 1.5 million on a manager somewhere, I'm not going to be able to afford it without ripping my team apart. Which is why I kind of like, I know he's expensive, but it's why I kind of like having Bruno Fernandes in there and then trying to save some transfers up because then I can downgrade him to a 7 million, 7.5 million asset who's good at the time and use that free 1 million to get a manager in.
Yeah,
So that's
smart.
why I kind of like holding Bruno Fernandes. But if you've got loads of transfers, you can just do that with free transfer.
Yeah, I mean, my sentiment there is try to start rolling as many transfers as you can and just be
Yes.
patient with your picks. Like, I think this week specifically we saw so many assets across the game deliver points. And whether it's somebody like João Pedro, who had blanked his life away for a number of game weeks, he comes in with a big 9 pointer. Somebody like Chris Wood, who I saw on a few managers' benches, unfortunately, in that first slot. Then you see your other cheap guys like Morgan Rogers come in with 11 points. So, even like Semenyo, like he's been my first bench slot for the last like 12, 15 game weeks. I'm just going to hold him, keep him there, roll my transfers. And, worst case scenario, maybe he blanks, but you can get a 5 or 10 pointer from time to time. So I just want to have that flexibility because I think as we get into this next part of chip season, the extra transfers are going to be so crucial. And that patience with some of your picks, like for me, Bumo has been one of those guys, and he just kind of ticks along. He's involved enough. His minutes are good. If your assets tick those boxes, you don't need to be so hasty. And I think that flexibility in your transfer planning will be really crucial coming up.
Yeah, and that goes players such as Rogers, for example. Rogers, he has Leicester at home this week, but he got the suspension, so he's not going to play.
Yeah,
I'm seeing a
exactly.
ton of people just immediately ripping him out of their team, but he's got a lot of money tied up in him. Plus, even you can just bench him this week, play someone less optimal like João Pedro against Arsenal at home. It's no big deal, and then you've got
Easy.
Rogers straight back in with a really nice run of fixtures. So I think, especially with the suspensions we've seen, you don't need to panic and rip these guys out.
Yeah, good call. All right. I think, yeah, like I said, Spurs and Newcastle, that should be a fun one. Oh, it's the 4:30 kickoff
Goals
on
galore.
Saturday.
Love it.
I'm gonna have to wake up for that one because I have both both Anthony Gordon and Isak playing. That should be at least 4 goals combined, I would say, in that match, right?
I see goals, a lot of goals in that game. Although Newcastle have been defending a lot better lately, but still,
Oh my goodness. I mean, you don't have Hall in your team, right?
no, because I considered Hall and Colwill like 3 weeks ago, and I went with Colwill. And now if I would have went with Hall, I'd have been like 40 points better off. So,
Dude, I'm
God,
right there with you because I went with Van Heck maybe
yeah,
5 game weeks ago instead of Hall.
yeah,
And the same kind of thing. Like he's been an absolute stud. And just the way that Newcastle are playing, like that left side looks so dangerous and threatening between him and Anthony Gordon, pinging balls across. Isak's in good form. The rest of the team is just humming. So Newcastle are poised for a really impressive run up coming here. As long as Isak can stay fit, I see them continuing their winning ways because they have one match a week. I think they're still in the one of the Carabao Cups or
yeah.
whatever it is, but they're in a great spot right now. So if you're looking for, especially like you said before, there's so many owners of Isak. If you want to actually gain from the attack at Newcastle, bringing somebody like Anthony Gordon at under 7.5 could be a good fit. So people who have Bowen, I think like if you're moving from Bowen and you don't want the headache of bringing in Luis Diaz, I think going Anthony Gordon is like a great choice for nailed minutes on some set pieces and just a easy, natural, move over.
Yeah, I think so. And then just quickly going back to Hall, like the reason you and I didn't get him in because we were talking about it is because we thought there's a lot of fixture congestion coming up. Trippier is back fit. Maybe he'll get rested. Maybe his minutes will be reduced. And we've seen that Trippier did come back in for quite a lot of minutes, but it was Livramento that made way every single time. Lewis Hall's
Yep.
been playing the full game every game. So we got that one wrong, unfortunately.
Yeah, sadly to say, but at least Buck's got it right. He's been mopping
Yeah.
up those points. Um, and I think Lewis Hall is he's going to play a lot of minutes for the Three Lions coming up as well because they don't really have a left back. So
No, that's a good point.
if he can start to get some caps and play in these bigger matches, I think he's a natural fit. What is he, 21?
I don't know. He's
He's
young.
super young. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
super young. He's still got the baby face assassin type of look, but he's gaining momentum for sure. All right, any other matches here that we want to touch on before we kick it off to our FPL community questions? I think there's a few more on here that we should banter about.
Yeah. Well, I think Aston Villa at home to Leicester is going to be one where we can expect a lot of goals from Aston Villa, but they're missing Duran and they're missing Morgan Rogers. So I think someone like Ollie Watkins is a very, very nice differential this week. There's some people that put him in last week and he delivered 12 points
Yeah,
after
big time.
Duran's suspension. If you got him in for that game, 12 points, and now you have him at home to Leicester, I think that was a really great move.
He's just so expensive, right?
Yeah,
What is he,
he's
nine?
awkward.
He's
He's
still
awkward.
9 million.
I think he's like 8.8 or something now, but that's still too expensive when you've got Isaac right there
Yeah.
and Jackson and people like that.
It's great to see him on pens. He took a pretty confident pen and slotted that home, and that got the Rogers assist on that from an FPL perspective. It's just like, is he a player when Duran comes back from his ban? Are they going to keep splitting minutes? Like, I'm just
Yeah, I
not
don't know.
quite sure, because if you look at his previous 4 matches, he was getting 45 minutes or less in a bunch of those, which is very atypical for Ollie Watkins, who's normally been a 90-minute man, but he's got some firm competition from Duran there.
Yeah. And then one more game is Man City at home to West Ham. I think for those of you that own Haaland, maybe this is the game that he finally gets a brace or a hat trick or something like that. We've been saying that for many, many game weeks, but it's coming, I'm telling you. And I want it to happen. I want him to start getting goals and goals and goals to really shake things up a little bit. People trying to rip their teams apart to get him back in and giving us more of a decision. So I hope it happens.
Yeah, especially with Wildcard 2 now
Yeah.
available. Wow, we're going to be able
Oh
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wildcard already. So it is funny to see across the community as well. Just here's a Wildcard 20 template. It's like, yeah, this is like 85% of my team.
Give me your predictions for when Bucks is going to use it.
Oh
Two
yeah,
weeks, three
that guy
weeks.
is chip crazy. He's chip crazy, but no, his team's in a good spot too. He just needs to nail a few differentials to keep climbing the ranks alongside you, and you guys will both be in the top 100K by the time the season's over.
And
I'm
we'll see.
pretty
He's
confident.
only 3 points behind me now.
Yeah, and what is that, like 75,000 places? So like, you guys are still in a great spot to nail chip season and continue to rise in the ranks.
Yeah.
Lastly, I think the Crystal Palace home fixture versus Chelsea, especially with Chelsea's form. I know you're a Sar owner. Would you bring Sar in this week, or Eze in potentially, or Munoz? Like, I probably would. I wouldn't be too fussed in that fixture. I expect there to be at least 3 total goals. So what are your thoughts on bringing in a potential Palace player into your team?
Again, I feel like I'm answering the same way with every question, but it's important this season. It depends on how many transfers you've got. If you've got a lot of transfers, I don't mind using one to bring them in this week. If you've only got one transfer, I would roll it till next week and then potentially bring him in next week when they play Leicester, just in case you get an injury or a red card or something like that, and then you're really screwed. So I don't think they're an urgent buy this week, but if you can afford it and you've got some spares, go for it. I think it's a good fixture for them.
Yeah, not to mention, like, for my side, like, I'm looking at both Sar and Eze as potential Semenyo replacements.
Yeah.
Again, not pressing, but I am looking at it. So I'm actually going to use this week as like a audition, like another, let's get some more data. Maybe we see Eze continue to just take more shots and look a little bit more efficient on the pitch. And maybe the XG and XGI flips between Sar and Eze in this next one. Like, I just want to see them a little bit more, but in 21 to 28, holy crap, they have a sea of really solid fixtures, and
Yeah, they do.
somebody you would be happy to rotate. Sar is at least cheap enough that if you put him as your first bench slot too, you're not going to be too fussed from time to time. But they play Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Manchester United, Everton, Fulham, Aston Villa, and Ipswich for a sea of pretty solid fixtures where you'd be happy to start their attackers, I think. So we're going to keep an eye there, and they'll gain momentum. But yeah, just some other team to shout out. So now we're going to transition into our mailbag for our hashtag FPL community questions. So we really appreciate you guys for engaging with us on X and on our other social platforms. So take it away, Dan. Let's answer some questions. We'll make this more of a little bit of a lightning round if we can.
Sure. Let's start with Paz, FPL Paz on X. He asks,
Who's that? Who dat?
uh, some guy, I don't know,
Some guy,
some
some
jerk.
some 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 runner in Miami just running away from his FPL team as much as he can.
Yeah. He asks, if fit, is Cunha still a sell despite only missing one match? Very team dependent, of course, but want to see what the boys think. So I guess I can answer this one.
Oh, I mean, this is no longer a lightning round. We got to go into this Cunha situation with a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I can't believe you haven't owned him the entire season, Dan. Like, your team
Team bias. I can't help
It's
it.
team bias, but still, man, you could have been riding so high. And then on top of it, you get the 7 points like we discussed earlier out of 9. And then the ban comes down. He might have a knock or have an injury, so he might not even be been able to play anyway. And he gets only 2 games from the FA. What the flying bleep is going on here? 2 games for basically assaulting a
Yeah.
staffer?
And
This is insane.
not only 2 games, it includes the cup, and we're playing Bristol City in the cup, so it's only one Premier League game that he's missing. He's going to be back for game week 21. So, you know, because of his price and because of the fixtures we have coming up, I think you can sell him, especially if you want to bring in someone like Chris Wood or someone like that. However, if you do want to hold him, he's going to be a differential. And I don't see it as a lot of people have bench headaches this week, I feel. So if you can afford to put him on your bench and then bring him back in game week 21, he's going to be a bit of a differential for you. And I see no reason why he can't continue to deliver the points. He's involved in absolutely everything good that Wolves do. He gets all the shots, all the set pieces, all of the corners, and bonus points monster. So I have nothing against people wanting to hold him. I know it's the suboptimal player, as they say, but he's just so good. I have no problem people holding him.
Yeah, I mean, he's destined for a Champions League side next season, I would say. And the fixtures, like you said, are very tough. You're gonna have Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal, Villa, Liverpool. That's a pretty brutal stretch of 5 right there for Wolverhampton. So if you want to sell him and then bring him back later, I think that's worth the transfers. But holding him makes sense too. Like these assets that are on corners, on PKs, have the
Yeah,
open goal threat. Like at sub 7 million, like I would be fine to bench him and hopefully use your depth this week to cover, and then just hope that when he comes out, like you said, bonus point magnet. If he gets something, he's usually getting 1 to 3 bonus points. That's big for
exactly.
your team.
And we've seen that Wolves can score against anyone, and Cunha is likely involved. There's one goal against Liverpool is possible, and then boom, 9 points. You never know. So he's fine for me. We've seen it with João Pedro. Everyone's just holding him, holding him, holding him. He finally gets a goal and gets 9 points. I see no reason not to do the same with Cunha. I know he's more expensive, but a lot of people don't need the funds.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question comes from at Bangla_FPL, aka Abdullah. He says, Happy New Year. And should I look to move Pedro to Wood, Jackson to Gakpo, or Gordon to Diaz? Oh boy, this is a complicated question here.
I don't like any of them.
I hope you have those up. Or should I just keep all 3 of my players and get Konate instead when he's back? Oh, so this is like looking down the line for some of his
Yeah.
future planning.
I'm going to be honest though, Brian, like all of these options he's presented, I don't like. I would hold every single player he's considered selling and just save all of your transfers. I don't know why you'd want to get rid of João Pedro or Nicholas Jackson or Anthony Gordon, especially. A lot of people are bringing him in. I just save your transfers. I see no upside in any of these moves.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking towards future game weeks, I guess, but all those assets are pretty solid. I think Nico Jackson is like simmering down a little bit, and Chelsea's a little bit out of form. So that could be one where, especially if you're chasing, like nobody's going for players like Gakpo or even Gabriel Jesus. Like those are 2 shouts that are going to have under 5 or 10% ownership. So you could look at that. And Jackson's like he's expensive. I think that's the thing. It's like if you're paying for an 8.3, 8.5 million pound striker, you kind of want them to be on penalties, etc. So yeah, I'm
I
cooling
don't know,
off a
but
little bit on Endot, but
this same thing happened to Mbuma that he went 3 or 4 games not delivering and everyone ripped him out, including me. The same thing could happen to Jackson. He'll start scoring again and then everyone's like, oh crap, we shouldn't have sold him. Let's get him back in. I would just hold him personally. I think at this point in the season, free transfers are so valuable.
yeah. And with that being said, friend of the show at FPL Theorist, he wants to know our thoughts on Mbumo. He's averaging over 6 points per game from just a 0.48 XGI. Can he keep this up, or is it something that players should be looking to bring him in as a potential Bowen replacement or other midfielder replacement? So you don't own Bumo anymore. What are your thoughts there?
No, for me, he's a case of someone that I wouldn't buy right now, but I also wouldn't sell him right now. I think that's I think there's other players who have more upside to bring in, like Anthony Gordon with their fixtures, players like that. I wouldn't bring Mbumo in. However, like you said earlier, he's the 90-minute man that plays every single game. He's on all set pieces and he scores a lot of goals. So nothing against it. I just wouldn't go there myself right now.
Yeah, Southampton, very much a tasty fixture.
Yeah.
Manchester City at home. Yeah, that's a decent Bumo fixture actually, because he'll be putting in a lot of crosses and could strike on the counter. Liverpool, that's a tough one as well. But he's a good player to keep on the watch list, but I would not be bringing him in quite yet. All right, next question is from my Cayman fan, aka Matt. He says, "Happy New Year's." Wow, we got some friendly folks in our FPL community just wishing us good vibes here in 2025. He wants to know, what's the ideal forward line structure in your mind? Is it two premiums, one budget, or two budgets and one premium? So right now, I would say Isak is considered a premium based on who we're looking at. So of the other options, Cunha, Wood, Ladro, Wissa. I know you've had a cup of tea with him this season. Who else are we talking about? Raul?
Yeah, fuck Royal, man. He's in my team. He's just pissing me
Yeah.
off. But yeah, I think he's including Nicholas Jackson as a premium here, right? And
Yeah, I
Watkins.
would say
Anyone over
premium
there?
premium would be Watkins, Isak, and Jackson at those price tags.
Wow, that's a difficult question. It's so hard not to answer every question with team dependent. It really is. If I see nothing wrong with going Isak and Jackson, I think that's a really good combination with the fixtures coming up. I still think Jackson is a great asset. I get nervous every time they play and I don't own him. But I also don't mind going with two cheap budget options up front alongside Isak and then using your funds in midfield because we're seeing a lot of these midfielders delivering the points lately. So we have to think about chip season coming up and the teams that are doubling and jumping on those. Like, I don't think there's a good Liverpool forward, for example, to jump on. So,
Yeah, just no love for Gakpo, huh?
no, I mean, I could be very wrong, but I just don't trust his minutes. But when he plays, he gets so many points. I don't know. I've got too many players in my team who don't deliver me 90 minutes every week. I don't want to add an additional one. What are your thoughts on this question? I'm struggling to answer this one because for me, it really depends on the rest of your team. Like, do you have Trent, for example?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one to answer. I would not be too fussed on whatever your setup is. Like, I am of the belief of just holding your assets where you can. Don't be too flustered about what is the optimal structure. Like you said, like roll your transfers where you can. I think a few differentials again, like you pull up Gakpo's game log, it's pretty impressive. He's on a nice little tear. He's gonna have some of those subs. Like he's always gonna be the first early sub if he does start between 55 and 70. So that part's annoying. But um yeah, I think Gabriel Jesus is finally finding some form once again, like
Oh
two
yeah,
years
there's a good
later from
option.
being an
Yeah, yeah.
FPL pick. And with his ability to kind of dribble and attack some people, like they need that. They need that in the team without Saka. So I think he's somebody that can play alongside Kai. And, it's been working for them. He's been involved with a ton of goals lately. He's probably got like 10 goal involvements over the last couple of weeks during the festive fixtures and the cup action. So he's another player to consider, but yeah, don't worry about it too much, Matt, and you'll find your way. I think he
Yeah,
got a really cheeky green arrow this week, so well done to him. Just keep doing what you're doing, man.
exactly. I think if I was forced to pick a structure, I would go with the two budget options and one premium because I prefer to put my funds in midfield and Trent Alexander-Arnold in defense if I was forced to pick.
All right, fair enough. All right, next question is from Graham Atwell. This is one of my mates from down under who I met with recently when I was in Sydney, and he says, I have the option to get rid of Matoma or Ahmad with 1.2 million in the bank. So the question for the pod is best midfield option under 7.6, or do I just keep Matoma and possibly bin João Ladro? Or final option, throw my phone down the shitter and wait for next season because I'm fucked.
That sounds good.
Oh man, this guy's a king of banter. He's got some good
Yeah,
one-liners. I enjoyed catching up with him, and he's having a pretty rough season, up and down. I mean, Matoma for me, yeah, it's this Brighton team. You're
yeah,
not going to get a lot of joy from that. And if you have a double up on Brighton, that's even worse.
exactly. I think this
That's
is a
even
very
worse.
easy question to answer. I think you keep Ahmad because of his price. He's cheap. I
Yeah.
still think Man United are a fine team to have an asset from because, they're not going to just be shit every single game and not score every single game. Whereas Matone is that really awkward price point. He's not delivering the points. You've got a double up on Brighton. So I think doing Matoma to someone like Anthony Gordon is a very, very obvious choice. I think he can afford that.
That's a no-brainer for me as well. I like that move quite a bit. I guess you could take a punt on Martinelli if you're a
Yeah.
Gunners fan. He's starting to pick up his form, and they're gonna need him to really soak up a lot more goals. Most likely, Odegaard is out of the picture. He's gonna be a deep lying playmaker. He'll trickle in with some assists, but he's not gonna be the one scoring the goal. So if you're looking for possibly Martinelli as a pick, and then I think Eze and Sar, I'm still trying to figure out who the pick is there. We're seeing
Yep.
Sar kind of at the end of a lot of their movement, and Mateta is just a big boy that can put his back to the defense, get the ball, and then pass it out to a streaking Sar. And that's kind of how a few matches have played out. So if that continues, then maybe Sar could be more far forward. So he's a decent option there. But I would bin Matoma, nice
Easy.
guy, does his dissertation in Japan on fucking dribbling, but he hasn't been putting in FPL points for the last 18 months. So he's dead to me. And
Yeah.
he's on Brighton.
There we go. And we have one final question from our co-host Bucks. He asks, please rank Anthony Gordon, Brian Mbumo, and Eze as your fourth mid options. So 1, 2, 3, quick fire. Go ahead.
Who was the first guy? Gordon.
And Anthony Gordon, Brian Mbumo, or Eze?
Yeah, Gordon, Bumo, and Eze. I'm just not sure Eze's fully fit yet, right? Like he's had a couple good performances. He scored the goal and then still went off early. So I'm just not sold on him. He's been made out of glass and really kind of hurt us in the first 8 game weeks of the season when we kept a lot of faith in him. So Anthony Gordon is going to trickle along. Hopefully he'll score more goals. He had a lot of goals last year, 11 goals, I believe, and 16 assists. So right now he's only got, I believe, 3 or 4 goals. So if he could have a bigger second half of the season, then he's really somebody that I would like to have paired next to Isak.
Yeah, I think I would go Gordon as a boomer
Nice,
because I love
nice.
Payne. I
And
love
then
Payne.
Eze or Sar.
Well, I picked Salah. I watched that Crystal Palace game, and even though Eze got all the points, Salah had much better XGI. He was much more involved in front of goal. So I still prefer him as the pick. But like you said, I think use this week to analyze a bit more and then make your decision next week. But I'm still liking Salah. And there's the price point factor as well.
Easy. All right, and then actually we have one other question. FPL Patrick wants to know, what is Dan doing for his birthday next week? Dan, another year wiser. Is this the truth? Next week already?
Yes, my birthday is on January 7th. I'm kind of weirded out that Patrick knew that. He must have it on his calendar or something because I haven't mentioned it. So
What a good lad. Yeah, what a good lad. I mean, he dropped that in the DM. So what do we got?
I did.
What's shaking? Wifey gonna take you out for a nice dinner or what?
I'm sure I will go out to dinner and then maybe some kind of surprise. I like to be surprised on my birthday, so we'll
Ooh,
see what happens.
spicy. Turn off the cameras for OnlyFans. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
We almost made it through a whole pod without.
I couldn't, you've been away for a couple weeks. I had to bring it up one last time. And then for you, dude, one thing about getting fucking older, you don't get your birthday off of work, And that's one thing that I'm like, maybe I should just start taking my birthday off. Just have a nice personal day.
Yeah,
But back in the day, it's just like, oh, get all your friends together and party a little bit, whatever. Now it's just like, you in your 30s. Just like, yeah, I guess I'll go to work and then go to dinner, and that's a day.
exactly. Dude, my
Day in the
birthday's always
life.
sucked. My birthday's always sucked because it's always been, even when I was in primary school and secondary school, it's always the day everyone returns from the Christmas break. So
Oh,
everyone's in a
weird.
bad
Okay.
mood. Everyone's back to school, back to work. All of my birthday gifts are wrapped in Christmas paper. It's like whatever.
All right, let's get out of here in a few minutes. But first, what are your transfer plans and captaincy shouts for Game Week 20, Mr. Black Wolf?
All right, so I'm gonna captain Salah. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yep, done
Um,
and dusted.
I'm forced to play Raul Jimenez. I think he's gonna get benched this time for Muniz.
You
But
think so?
I think so, but I can't bench him against Ipswich at home. I just can't do it. Even if he comes on for the last 20 minutes, he might get a goal. So fuck it. I think I am gonna use one free transfer and then hopefully look to roll for the next 4 game weeks. But I say that every week and it never happens. But I think I'm gonna bring in maybe Anthony Robinson.
Oh, really?
I need an attacking defender because all I've got is Greaves, who is shit, Colwell, who I'm just fed up with. I know the fixtures are good. I know it's not optimal to take him out, but I'm just tired of him in my team. And then I have Rico Lewis, who I worry about starting every single game week. I know he finally got a clean sheet this week, but it's always a panic. Is he going to start? Is he going to start? So I want one attacking defender. So it's either going to be Munoz or Anthony Robinson for me, I think. And I'm leaning towards Robinson.
Interesting, interesting. So I recently brought Jedi in, and it's good to have a American lad in the side. But if I could go back in time, I think of the similarly priced assets, I would rank him third. I would go Hall number one, and then I would go Munoz number two, and then Jedi at number three. Fulham do have over the next 10 fixtures, they have the second best run on Fantasy Football Scout according to their fixture ticker. So I get
Yeah.
the point you're making there. I just think that the upside with Hall, like you've seen him get 10, 12 pointers a few of these matches where they're scoring 4 goals. Whereas, Anthony Robinson has, I think, 8 assists already this season. But if you look at his game log in terms of FPL points, he's often assisted when they've conceded, and he hasn't really had any of those big spikes. So I just for me, I think Hall is the guy. So that I just want to throw that spicy one in there too. And Crystal Palace, I guess they're even ahead of Fulham. They have the best run over the next 10 matches. So Munoz, from a goal threat, he could be somebody. I mean, he had a huge chance over the weekend that he missed. So he's
Yeah.
one that could be more kind of that high ceiling 15 pointer guy on the right day. But I mean, I wish I could trade out Trent and just have those three guys as my backline defense next to a Gabriel. That for me, if I could go back, I think I would prefer that and
Oh,
then
really?
move the money up front. But that'll come when wild card talking time
There you
comes
go.
around.
But yeah, I think I need one of these three assets in my team going forward. And probably bring a second one of them in 2 or 3 game weeks time. I like that structure. I like the rotation. I'm tired of having Colwell in my team and Greaves and Lewis.
Yep.
You know, they're good long term holds.
Like it.
And their
Well, we'll
ownership is high.
certainly,
Yeah. Robinson especially, his ownership's pretty high.
yeah, we'll certainly jump into the DMs and discuss that more thoroughly. What is he? 4.9? Oh, he's 5 million already though. His price has gone up. I mean, do you have any love for Castagna
Nah,
at like 4.3?
nah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money you could save there, so something else to consider. But um, yeah, man. I mean, I just again look at the points that Anthony Robinson is bringing. He's trickled, but he does not have higher than a 7 pointer this season, and he has 7 real FPL assists. Like that's pretty shocking, right? So there's been no combination where he's assisted and cleaned. I don't like
Yeah,
that at
it's true.
all from an upside perspective. So look at through those game logs a little bit more and just think about like what the ceiling is.
His ceiling is 12 points this game week.
That is true. That is true. But Tractor Boys, the lap's a
Oh,
fucking
I know,
baller,
I
dude.
know. He
That
is.
who could use him? Manchester City.
Yeah. Manchester United could use him. I
Nice. All right. Moving quickly to my team, I will be rolling easy roll for me this week. I only have one free transfer, so I'm gonna start stockpiling assets. I got Mikolenko on the bench already, which has been a long-term hold for me, so that guy will be unleashed in the double game week. But right now, the rest of the side is looking positive, and it's really just either to play João Pedro home versus Arsenal or play Semenyo home at Everton. So curious if you had any thoughts on those two starters.
Who was your first option?
Right now, I have Semenyo first bench, and I'm starting João Pedro home to Arsenal.
Oh, God, that's difficult. I mean, João Pedro's, the striker. He's on penalties. But, Everton at home is a better fixture, and Semenyo's very heavily involved. I would probably start Semenyo. But, dude, you're the one that's sitting really high up. You've been making the better decisions, so go
Look,
for
I
what you
take I
think.
take a lot of feedback from the squad here to make sure we're managing correctly. But so it's today I had the same situation where I had Bumo versus my double Arsenal defense, and
Yeah.
Bumo came in with a goal, had some good crosses. He could have easily been on a double digit performance, but I kind of liked like the hedge. It's like I'm not expecting three players to all, haul in that match, but knowing that likely somebody who's on pens and set pieces, free kicks, etc., could wipe out the clean sheet, it was fine. So that ended up happening too. And I mean, Bumo, what a bald legend. He's got to be in the bald Hall of Fame for FPL, right?
He is. We
We'll,
should
we'll
start
break that
making him
down. We'll
bald
break
famous.
that down at some point, but we got to make sure that he's one of the first ballot guys because he's having a fantastic season for Brentford.
For
All
sure.
right.
I mean, I see nothing wrong with you starting João Pedro. I'm starting him, and I have no issues playing him against my double Arsenal defense.
Yeah. I mean, he's blanked his life away, but maybe Brighton are actually better suited on the counter versus some of these better teams. I know that a few Brighton folks have said that they're better suited for those types of matches versus trying to break down a defense. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But right now, that's where I'm at. And I think that's a wrap. Happy New Year, Dan.
Happy New Year.
I'm wishing you great health and fortune in 2025. It's going to be a big year. We got a lot of things cooking. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode. We wish you all a just a year filled with green arrows. As long as you don't pass me, that's all that matters.